Um, I'm Ryan Kerr, Thrifty Pipe Guy, and smoking the Ben Rogers today. It's it's new to the collection. I'm pretty stoked about it. It's a nice pipe. It smokes really well, and it was free, so you can't beat that. At any rate, um, sorry, Frogmorton on the Bayou is the tobacco of choice today, anyways. This is my first tin of this. I like it pretty well. I like it. It's good stuff. It's not too much different than there's a blend from A1 Rise that I get called the International Blend, and it's a pretty heavy blend that I like quite a bit, and it's a lot like that. So I was thinking today, and this is only my second video. I don't really have a process for stuff. I don't know how you guys do it. I hope that I can do half as well as most of you out there. But I do have a topic that I was thinking about. Um, and that's tobacco. All of us love the stuff. We're trading it constantly amongst each other. We're calling up a buddy or writing a buddy when we find a new one that's really good. Um, we get stoked about finding that one tin that we haven't tried, and then you crack it up and you see the presentation, how the tissue paper or whatever's in there is folded over, if it's a flake, if it's not, if it's ready rub, just all sorts of things. We absolutely love this stuff. And I was trying to think about my first experiences with tobacco, and of course, like most, I was just a little kid trying to smoke cigarettes, and that was the first experience of mine with tobacco. But my first real personal experience was farming tobacco. I live in upstate Indiana now, but I lived in Kentucky for a lot of my childhood and throughout my teenage years. And Kentucky is huge. The cash crop is tobacco. Up here, the cash crop is corn. Um, and so when I was 13, my first job was farming tobacco. And I got paid $7 an hour under the table to work as a farmhand. And I was thinking about the process. And you first you set it, and then you chop it. Setting it, you take the big machine out and you actually set the seed, set the plant into the ground, and then you chop it as the plant sprouts up. You take a hoe, a garden hoe, or that's what we did anyway. Some people had fancy things, but we were pretty much by hand. We hoed all the weeds. You had to keep close eye on that. And then during that process, you also would fertilize it and whatnot. And then once the plant grew, you would cut the tip off, the top of the plant off, and then you would cut and chop. I'm sorry, not chop, I said chop. You would cut and stake it. And you would take these little, it was like a little hatchet, it was a tobacco cutter, and you would work in teams of two. One person would bend over and cut the stalk of the plant right down by the ground, hand it back to their buddy who had a tobacco stick, which wasn't much different than a meter stick, really. And it had this really sharp spear on top of it, and you would spear it right through the center of the stalk, and you'd put however many plants on there. I can't quite recall. I think it was about 7 plants. You would spear down on that stake, and eventually the plants would lie down on the ground. The stake was through them, and it would kind of sit there, and then you'd go on down the line doing that. And after that, you would hang it. You'd take it into a barn. You'd have teams. You have the bigger guys. you'd have the bigger guys on the tobacco trailer handing it up into these farms and the barns. I'm sorry, and the barns were basically just rafters lined all the way up, because you would stand on the trailer and hand the stakes the tobacco was on up to a guy that was in the middle, and then there was another guy up at the top, and then you would just continue to hand them up, and you'd hang them across the rafters, spread the plants out so they could dry. Most of the tobacco farms down there paint all their barns black. It attracts the sunlight, dries the tobacco faster. And those, that's mass produced. It was a small scale, but it was still, it's more than people growing whatever a couple plants they have. And then once it dried, you would take it all out of the barn, and then you would peel it into 3 sections. And that was the bigger leaves at the bottom of the stalk, the middle leaves, and then the tips. You would separate those into 3 bins. And then again, it was a small operation. We had a big car jack that in those bins we'd put a board on top, and then we'd jack the boards down and compress them into bundles, and that's how we formed the tobacco. Now, also everybody down there had tobacco because it was the cash crop. So I mean, you'd go past, and this was rural Kentucky, but you go past the local convenience store in town, and in their landscaping beds they'd have 5 tobacco plants growing. I've been talking, forgot to smoke. But anybody would get their hands on whatever they could, and they would go out, and we grew a bunch of burley. But a lot of you guys are from, and you're better than that, because I'm just a Yankee boy that moved down to Kentucky, and it's been a long time, so I could have even forgotten this stuff. I don't think I did. I reviewed it in my head today. But a lot of you guys, living in Kentucky, Virginia, West Virginia, Tennessee, Carolinas, some Georgia, you guys farm a lot of tobacco. I just found out that, was it Wisconsin or Missouri? I guess some great tobacco, Red Man tobacco, comes from up there, and I had no idea. I think, if I remember right, somebody said that Jay lives upstate Michigan, and he's been putting if you guys aren't watching Jay's videos, you need to watch his videos. They're great. And he's been keeping everybody up to date with his tobacco farming, which, it's very small scale. He's just growing some tobacco plants, and it's a really cool process. He's making sure to give garden updates, and it's really cool. And there are a few more guys on here doing that, but I'm not familiar with everybody's names yet. So, at any rate, I was wondering if anybody had any cool tobacco farming stories, or if they had a cool tobacco experience that they can remember when they were way back. Because we take it for granted, I think, these days, that we're just mailing stuff back and forth to each other. We don't even know why we fell in love with it in the first place. And for me, it was a very personal thing. Peeling tobacco tore off my hands every single day after working in it, because that stuff is hard to get off. And needing something to smoke while you're in there peeling the tobacco plants, and just grabbing a dried up leaf, rolling it up in a piece of, in a wrapper, and lighting it up. It was terrible. At the time. it wasn't nicely cut or anything. It was just a tobacco leaf. But there's some really cool experiences to go along with that. And I'm sure a lot of you people that live in those major tobacco farming states have some really neat stories to tell. And I'd love to hear them if you could. Or anything that got you to the point where you're loving tobacco now. That'd be really cool. I don't care if you do a video response. That's neat if you do. And I know that a lot of people are doing these question videos, and there's not enough time in the day to answer every single one of them. I understand that. And I'm the new guy, so I might not get anybody to answer this. That's fine too. But I wanted to share a little bit about why I fell in love with tobacco. And that has a lot to do with it. I guess the better portion of it was because there's this girl that the farmer who I worked for, his daughter. Yeah, she was fantastic. And I got to farm with her every single day. And there's nothing better than a lady who doesn't mind to get dirty. And yeah, we had a lot of fun. And she was a couple years older than me. She tried acting like she didn't care, but she did. She did. None of the ladies can say no to Ryan. Get them all in the end. You guys have a good day.